Welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, your go-to source for insightful discussions on leadership, job searching, and all things human resources. I'm your host, HR Kyle, and each week we dive deep into topics relevant to professionals seeking to elevate their careers and organizations. Whether you're a seasoned leader, a job seeker navigating the ever-changing landscape of employment, or an enthusiast looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the podcast for you. Join me as we explore practical strategies, share expert insights, and engage in meaningful conversations that empower you to succeed in today's dynamic workplace. So, adjust your headphones and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another edition of the HR Kyle podcast. I'm your host, HR Kyle. And this is going to be one of the last few episodes, and I said this last time, that we're doing that's strictly audio. Here in a couple of weeks, we're going to move to a video and audio format, and we really hope you stick with us on that because I think it's going to be even much more entertaining than this has been. But again, welcome to today's episode. In this one, we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is extremely relevant to all of us at some point in time in our career, and that is the talk of stress, but more importantly, burnout in the workplace. And in segment one, Becki and I are going to tackle this subject and share some of our wisdom and experience and knowledge. And then as usual, in segment two, we're going to have a guest join us. He is renowned throughout the U.S. in speaking on this topic and addressing it because I still believe it doesn't get nearly as much attention as it deserves. But our guest is going to join us, and he is going to share some of his knowledge, wisdom, and experience around the subject as well, and some of the lessons that he shares with the organizations that he works with. But before we get into today's topic, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Greetings, I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise, an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker. I don't just offer a one-size-fits-all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit hrkyle.com today. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that break. And again, the topic of the day is stress and, more importantly, burnout in the workplace. And as usual for segment one, HR Kyle Becki is going to join me, and she will be running this segment. So HR Kyle Becki, welcome back.
Thank you, Kyle. This is quite an interesting topic today. I'm sure all of us have been through this, and there are probably people who don't even know that they've been through this. So great idea for today's topic.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think sometimes we almost take it for granted that this happens, and we don't recognize it when it's taking place.
Right, and we just think that this is normal because haven't been in a different work environment, so we just think of it as normal.
Exactly. Yep.
So what are some of the early warning signs that we should look for?
Well, I always tell my supervisors, especially in any of these situations, look for changes in behavior. So if that person has typically gotten to work at the same time and they kind of have the same routine, they take the lunch break and all these different things. If we start to see changes in that routine, because humans, we're very stuck on routine. We like routine. We like predictable. And if you stop thinking about it, most of us, you work at a place, you park in the same spot every day, you go in about the same time. But when you start to see changes in behavior, that's one way. When you see changes in emotional reaction, where the person's normally pretty calm, cool, and collected, but all of a sudden They're reacting more extreme to different situations. And again, we're looking for changes. That's when we know we're probably seeing something happen there relative to stress and, again, leading to burnout.
Right. So can you give some examples of, you talked about coming to work later. Give some examples of how these maybe have been addressed in the past.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of times they don't get addressed. For one reason or another, the boss doesn't think that's something they should be concerned with. Or again, as we kicked off this segment, it's seen as normal. Oh, the person's stressed out and they're heading towards burnout. Well, yeah, that happens. That happens in the workplace.
Yeah.
So all too often they don't get addressed. Or if they do, it's addressed in such a way that it's dismissed. The
Right.
person will say, gosh, they'll speak up and they'll say, boy, these long hours are really starting to take a toll on me, or, I missed this or that. And the boss will say, oh yeah, well, yeah, that happens. That's what's happened to me throughout my life too. I miss a lot of things and so on. I guess,
Right.
it's just how it is working here. Welcome to ABC company. That's how we do things here.
Exactly. So how does an organization's culture, how does it impact the stress levels, and what changes could improve that overall well-being of all of us as employees?
Well, again, I think the thing that I've seen the most is what I just mentioned. In a lot of cultures, that is worn as a badge of honor. Like if you're not stressed out and you're not looking like you're heading towards burnout, you almost receive a negative reaction from your coworkers to the point of, wait, well, you're not putting in enough hours, or you're not dedicated to this enough, or you're not, hey, things are rough around here. Why aren't you acting a certain way? So a lot of times the culture expects you to be stressed out and to be heading towards burnout. And if you're not working hard enough, you're not dedicated enough to the company, you're selfish, whatever those things are. So first and foremost, it's changing that mindset. And it has to start with the boss. We all look at that. Your boss is putting in long hours. They're doing all those different things and they're having certain reactions. Well, that's setting the standard for the rest of the group. It's either consciously or unconsciously setting the standard. A lot of times it's both.
Yeah,
That
because you feel guilty if the boss is working late, and then you feel guilty you might stay late just because you're feeling guilty about the boss staying and you're leaving.
exactly. Yep. I've seen so many workplaces where in a work group, somebody didn't want to be the first person leaving for the night. And that's
Right.
just the most foolish thing, the foolish mindset that we get caught up into in workplaces. Again, I've been there. It's easy for me to say, oh, I this or that. But this is what I promote our business as. I've been in these work environments. I'm not some consultant that's always had his own business or head of the company and this and that. I've worked in work environments. I know this is how people think, that I can't be the first one to leave. Oh, the boss is still here. Well, I don't want to set a bad example. I'm trying to get ahead here. And just by me sticking around, that's letting them know that I care about the company and I'm promotion worthy. No, come on.
Right.
That's where the culture gets in the way. And again, bosses establish those cultures, whether they believe it or not. They can say they care. They can say work-life balance and all those things. But when there's a, parking lot full of people at 5:30, 6:30 at night, that's your culture, whether you say
Right.
you have work-life balance or not.
And I think I remember a job that you had that you did that. That's exactly what you said. Well, it wouldn't look good if I'm leaving
Yep.
at 5 o'clock and everybody else is still here. And fortunately, I worked, when I taught, I was with a union. So, we had a set time to be there and a set time to leave. And I started pretty much the end of my career, started doing that, leaving when I was supposed to leave.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because we used to talk about that. And I would question you about your coworkers because go ahead and share with the group, even though you had a union contract to set your hours,
Mm-hmm.
tell this audience a lot of times what people would do.
Oh, they would stay. Yeah, they would be there till 5 o'clock at night. If we were allowed to leave at 3:10, they would be there till 5, 6 o'clock at night. And not really any reason why. They just would stay.
Right. Because of, there's some unspoken rule, or that's the culture that we have here. And you're going to get a bad reputation. I know you can leave at 3, but it's going to hurt your reputation. You're not going to get promoted to this. You're not going to have an opportunity to do that different thing.
Well, and another aspect of that, and I still say that today, is they say, well, somebody has to do it. If not, I have to take it home. Well, my thought is it's still going to be there tomorrow.
Right.
So,
yeah. You've said that phrase many times.
yep. So what strategies then have you found that are most effective in managing when you start to see those people that might be getting burnout, that you have multiple people, the team, individuals? What strategies have you used or found that were effective in managing this workplace stress?
Yeah, great point. So first and foremost, bosses, you're a boss, but now it's time to become a leader. And we all know the difference between a boss and a leader. And a leader recognizes these things happening in their group. And they also recognize the influence, again, consciously and subconsciously, that their behaviors have upon the group. So first and foremost, as a leader, if you want to be one rather than a boss, you got to walk the walk. You get out of there on time. You do other things. So it starts there. But from an individual standpoint, one of the biggest things I talk about employees with, because they're challenged with this, is boundaries. And a lot of issues come up in the workplace. A lot of people have issues in their workplace because they don't set boundaries.
Right.
Well, one of the boundaries you set is when you're going to come in and when you're going to leave, and how you're going to get your work done, and how you're going to structure your day.
Mm-hmm.
So set those boundaries for yourself ahead of time, and then hold yourself to them. And also, don't make your life just about your work. Your work is only one aspect of it. You have a family. You have other things that you enjoy doing, that you want to do. Prioritize those. There's a saying, but it's true. Nobody on their deathbed ever said, God, I wish I would have worked more hours.
Right.
There's never been a soul that said that. But what they have said is, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have done more things, more fun things that I enjoy. I wish I would have gone more places. Well, don't be that person. Have that life outside of work. When you describe yourself, don't lead off with, well, I'm this person that works for this company. You're so much more than your job. Your job is an aspect of it. Mine is as well. And it's important to me and it means a lot, but it's not the only thing that defines who I am. It's one piece of it. And I've worked on that to help manage my stress. So those few pieces of advice, Becki, are a couple of things. I'm sure if we talked longer, we could come up with more. I'd be curious your thoughts also.
Well, one of the things that came across my mind was how you started taking your hour lunches. You would leave the building and take your hour lunches.
Yeah, it forced me.
Yes.
I
And
forced
so you could
myself,
either
and
get
it
out and
forced me.
walk, you would just go sit in your car, listen to the radio, things, and get away from the job for a little bit.
Yep. Well, and I found I was more productive in the afternoon if I did that.
Right. And then I see bosses who don't do that. I see way too many people eating at their desks. Again, if you're going to eat at your desk, at least get outside for 15 or 20 minutes. Walk around the building, as we'll do that in our building. Just we walk in the building, different places, or walk outside somehow, someplace that you can go if you're going to eat at your desk.
Right. Yeah. Make an excuse to get away from the desk. And what's cool now, we have some technologies that help us too. I think you have this on your phone, or I've seen it on watches, to where it will remind you, okay, you've been sitting for 45 minutes. It's time to get up.
Right.
So even if you have to do that.
Yeah. Well, and another little story that I think about is when I was teaching, I did not eat lunch with students. That was, I with them all day long. That was that 30 to 35 minutes that I had was my time. So I ate with my fellow teachers, and we never talked about teaching, what was going on in the classroom. We played games. We made up games. We laughed. But it was just something that I was not going to eat with lunch with the students because it was just, that was my time.
Well, and again, there's boundaries. That's what you're doing there. You're establishing boundaries because it's a mini getaway.
Right. And So just kind of wrapping this up, we probably have given suggestions, we've told stories, and you kind of talked about this already. So what support do the employees need from their managers or their leaders?
Well, the one big support is that the manager or leader walk the walk.
Yes.
Don't just say, okay, we take pride in work-life balance and this and that. We work hard, we play hard. Walk the walk. You leave on time. You have reasonable hours. Or or if you see employees that are working long hours, step in and say something.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them about that. If you see changes in behavior, talk to them. Ask them what's going on. Be aware of your team. I see so many leaders that have people that work for them, and they're not leaders, they're bosses.
Right.
I see a lot of bosses that have people work for them, and I hate that phrase. That's why I'm saying it like that. And they just don't take any interest in that. Their only concern is giving that person work and receiving the work back.
Right.
Well, that's a boss. That's a boss, and that's fine. But those kind of people, those bosses, are the ones that have employees who do get burned out, and they are dealing with a lot of stress and so on. And ultimately what that leads to as a company is it leads to higher turnover. It leads to less productivity. It leads to more accidents. There's nothing good that comes out of that. No organization ever said, okay, our workers are stressed, but boy, do they do good work.
Right.
The two don't go together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great topic today, Kyle, and I love the ideas and the suggestions and the wrap up.
Well, thank you very much, Becki, and thank you for doing a great job hosting segment 1. And folks, thank you for joining us for segment 1, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back from this break, we're going to have segment 2. We're going to have a guest in our studio, and he is going to be sharing his wisdom around the topic of stress and, more importantly, workplace burnout and how to avoid it. So stay tuned.
Are you stuck in a job you hate? Dreaming of a career that excites you? It's time to turn those dreams into reality with Get the Job You Love by Kyle Patrick Smith, also known as HR Kyle. Discover proven strategies to land your dream job, master interviews, and stand out from the crowd. Packed with expert advice and practical tips, Get the Job You Love is your ultimate guide to career success. Available now on Amazon and other online retailers. Don't wait. Start your journey to a fulfilling career today. Get the job you love, because you deserve a job you love.
Hello, fellow professionals. Are you ready to revolutionize your approach to recruiting? I'm HR Kyle, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to my latest book, Recruiting is Easy, now available on Amazon and other online retailers. In today's dynamic HR landscape, it's all about strategic branding and engagement. My book unveils the secrets to crafting exceptional employee experiences, attracting top talent, and fostering strong connections. With Recruiting is Easy, you'll master the art of continuous improvement and adaptability, shaping the future of work one relationship at a time. Get your copy today and unlock the potential of HR as a strategic powerhouse. Remember, recruiting should be easy. I'm HR Kyle, and together, let's redefine recruiting. Look for Recruiting is Easy on Amazon and other book online retailers. Welcome back to segment 2 of the HR Kyle podcast. I'm your host, HR Kyle. And the theme of today's episode is avoiding burnout and really managing stress in your everyday work life. And certainly we spent some quality time in segment 1 talking about this topic from my perspective and in the experiences that I've had. But I'm happy and pleased to welcome an expert on the topic to the studio today. His name is Serban Mare, and Serban has quite a background in this particular topical area, and he has a great story to tell. So I'm excited to welcome Serban to the HR Kyle podcast. Serban, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Kyle. It's great to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we're looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise.
So, Serban, I purposely cut your introduction short because you have a fantastic story and a fantastic background, especially as it relates to this topic. So before we get into the questions, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I like to tell the story of me coming to America. This was in 2005 with a lot of ambition and drive to want to achieve the American dream. And for 8 years, I was tirelessly and passionately looking to achieve that American dream. And to my surprise, after 8 years, I did fulfill what I thought was the American dream, only to realize that it wasn't necessarily my dream, but it was the dream that I've grew up believing that will bring satisfaction and fulfillment. I kind of look at it as being a train on a train track and just plowing ahead without thinking too much. And I've worked a lot. I've tried to put in as many hours as possible to build a career, to have a home, to have a lot of income and save for retirement, only to find myself after 8 years completely drained and exhausted and just feeling overwhelmed with a lack of direction. And in that sense, I realized that I no longer want to be the train on the track where the tracks are already laid out for me. I wanted to do something that it's really uh, something that brings passion, that brings a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction. And that's when I've pivoted and went on my own journey to now be able to have a profession that I truly enjoy as a program manager, be in the top shape that I've ever been in my life, all the good stuff, a very fulfilling relationship and the passion of helping people, which is why we are here to try to help people not do similar pitfalls and mistakes that I've done to end up burned out and just lost in life.
Wonderful story. And Serban, if you don't mind, where are you originally from?
I am originally from Romania.
Awesome.
Europe, Romania, came here in 2005.
Yeah, that's a big move. That in and of itself, for many people, would be stressful.
Yes, it has it's definitely its challenges because I left behind a full life with a lot of friends, and it felt like a huge reset of on my life, and probably that's one of the reasons why I just dedicated myself and poured myself into building that American dream that I thought it was going to bring me the satisfaction that the America can bring.
Well, Serban, again, thank you for sharing your story and giving us some of that background. And so as we talk about burnout and stress, specifically in the workplace, what have you noticed and what do you talk about relative to the most common signs of burnout and stress? And just as importantly, how can individuals and organizations identify them early?
Yeah, I think the most common one that everybody can relate to is a lack of time. We have more and more things to do in our day, and it seems that there's not enough hours in the day to do them all, and that can lead as more things pile on our plate to a lack of energy, which is another sign of burnout where we're tired, and that's not just physical but also mental. It because of all the work, we just feel overwhelmed. So then we become uh, tiresome, and the second sign of burnout is a sense of cynicism. So we we become frustrated, angry, maybe at all the work that we have to do, and the fact that there's no time for ourselves, and there's a lack of um, support, which makes us a lot more angry and cynical. And then the third sign of uh, burnout is a lack of control. And this is due to the fact that we have so much to do in our day. It feels like we're no longer in charge of all the things that we have to do. It's just we're slaves to our calendar or our to-do lists. And of course, you were asking how this reflects into organization. And of course, once someone is falling towards that level of burnout, their performance lacks because they feel so overwhelmed that it just feels like everything that they have to do is a burden, and they start they start not performing at the level that they typically would if they would have that energy. And of course, along with this goes a lack of attendance, calling in sick more often because we do feel tired and overwhelmed. And then the cynicism permeates through the teams, and that affects the team morale, and it can lead to people feeling out of touch, not connecting with the organization, and it can also lead to either getting fired or leaving the company because of all these different accumulations of these signs of burnout.
Well, Serban, I appreciate especially that you speak to the entire picture and impact of this, because so often when we think of burnout and what that looks like, we imagine it as a person, one single person, and the detrimental effect that it has on just that one person. But the picture that you paint and that you focus on is this broader picture of the impact to those who are around this person who's suffering from burnout, whether it's in their personal lives and in their professional lives. And then even further, the impact that that has on these other individuals and their quality of life and their productivity and success in their roles. So it's not just the impact to the one person, it's an entire impact to everyone that's really close to that person.
Yes, that's well said, Kyle. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it affects everybody around the person who's burned out. I would agree with that.
Well, Serban, we've talked about the common signs. We've talked a little bit about the impact to the person and the organization. Can you share some effective strategies for managing stress and preventing burnout? Because ultimately that's what we want to do. But we also still want to maintain that productivity level and that job satisfaction.
Yes, there's multiple strategies, and one that I want to emphasize always, and this is one that I've applied in my own life, is a mindset around stress. There are two different types of stress. One is acute stress, which is at a level where you're having let's say, a presentation at work, where you know that you're going to step in front of leadership team, and that's stressful. But then that stress subsides once you finish the meeting. And then there's chronic stress, which is the one where you may have to do presentations every other day, where that stress level never has a chance to subside, and that continuous exposure to stress leads to burnout. And the way for me that I want to shift people's perspective on stress is that if we have that acute stress, if we're exposed to the acute stress, that is one that we should not run away from. Actually, that type of stress is highly beneficial for us. The pressure and the challenge that we have in our lives, they're actually helping us become more resilient. They help us become better at our job, grow in our capabilities. So we have to make that difference between the stress that is beneficial and the one that is detrimental. And to me, that's one of the first steps that we have to look at when it comes to stress, and ask ourselves, is this situation something that's supposed to make me grow and become more resilient? Is this something that's going to crush me? And with that, of course, there's a level of different attitudes that we take towards stress, because if we are able to recognize that a lot of the situations that we walk into that are stressful are actually beneficial for us, we would be able to change our attitudes towards it and walk in it saying, yes, this is something that it's gonna help me grow and become more resilient. That's one aspect of it. And then, of course, there's the strategic part of it, where a lot of times what we do in our lives is just continuously add to our plates. We're always asked to do more, but we never put off our plate anything. So practical things that we can do to eliminate some of that pressure and all of the different responsibility is, of course, to delegate. It's crucial for us to be able to offload some of our work and have it done by others. Ask for help. is something that many of us, including myself, sometimes I'm reluctant to do so because I feel like I'm not worthy. And a big one that it's difficult for many professionals is our ability to say no to too much work. And that is a crucial component that everybody needs to learn to say no, because if we're not and we constantly say yes, then ultimately we're going to lead to that burnout, to lack of performance, to becoming cynical, and that's not going to be beneficial for anybody.
So in other words, there's no good way of trying to take on all the burdens of the world without realizing your own limits. And I think the second point that comes through loud and clear in what you're sharing is having a strong self-awareness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is essential. And most of us just run our lives on red. And it's difficult for us to throttle back because we expect so much of ourselves. And that comes at a detriment of our well-being.
Serban, thank you for sharing that. And folks, we've got Mr. Serban Mare on our episode today talking about stress and most specifically burnout and how to recognize it and more importantly, how to avoid it. Well, Serban, with the last couple of minutes that we have left, what role do organizational policies and culture play in mitigating burnout and stress? And how can companies support employees in achieving, I've got work-life harmony down, but really it's more of a complete life as you described it?
Yes. Yeah, I do think that burnout is the way companies tackle burnout is by addressing it from the top down. So the leadership team has to understand that there's a multitude of different individuals and personalities that handle work in a different way. And I I believe that the companies are trying to do their best. However, there needs to be a balance because it is the managers and their bosses' responsibility to push an employee to work at their best, to give the most that they have for their company. However, that best, it comes back to the individual, to us now, to recognize that we cannot work at 100%. Because if we're running at 100% over time, that will lead to burnout. But if we're playing into the sweet spot somewhere between 70 and 80%, where we're in our resilience zone, where we are in our high pressure but high rewards, when we're in the growth zone, that's when individuals can contribute to their company properly, and the company, then the individuals do not burn out. And I think that is one differentiation that companies have to make and assess each individual how much they can push. Because I can tell you that after being in 5 or 6 meetings, I need to throttle back. I am more of an introvert. So then it's very difficult for me to jump from one meeting to another. Whereas someone who is more extroverted, they can do that easily. But I know myself now, and I make sure that I play in that boundaries of 70 to 80%, where I push myself enough to bend myself, but not to break myself.
Awesome advice. And there's that boundaries coming up yet again. Folks, this has been Serban Mare joining us today to talk about stress and burnout in the workplace and help us to get better at avoiding that and appreciate a more fuller life. Serban, thank you so much for joining us on the HR Kyle podcast. A lot of great wisdom and a lot of great guidance.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Kyle, and thank you for doing what you're doing and spreading the word.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Folks, thank you too for tuning in to another episode of the HR Kyle podcast. As always, we appreciate your listenership and appreciate your feedback and the thoughts that you share with us about our episodes. And we always appreciate you listening in. Otherwise, until next time, stay grounded, stay focused, and please stay tuned. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HR Kyle podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HR Kyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at hrkyle.com. That's hrkyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HR Kyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, and keep reaching for those career goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.